Sega! Here we go. Sega Mega Drive games tier list. So, here we have a list of Sega Mega Drive, or if you're from the US, Sega Genesis games. I've not played all of these, but I've played a good few of them. And we're going to tier list these bad boys for you. And you guys can agree or disagree, but just remember that my opinion is definitely the right one, yeah? Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to drop the game into C. We're going to discuss the game, and then we're going to rank it. Straightforward, isn't it? Alex Kidd and the Enchanted Castle. So we played this on stream, actually. God, 2 years ago, I think it was. I know this game isn't the best platformer ever made, but you know what? I have a soft spot for this game. It was a game I played a lot as a kid. In fact, Braden Beard, my son Braden, loves playing this game as well. He likes Alex Kidd. Obviously, people probably know that Alex Kidd was the mascot for Sega before a certain blue hedgehog came around. And the games are a bit janky, but they're charming and quite difficult. I'd say, but I like them. I've never beat the game without cheating. I've got quite far with cheating, but I've never actually beat this game without like save states, or again on the new Mega Drive games you can't rewind it and shit like that. So it's quite hard, but it's good. C or B? Yeah, I definitely think it's C or B. I agree with that. C or B? That is a good question. I think my heart says B, but my head says C. Because it's not the best game in the world. But I do really like it. I'm going to go with B. We might move it to C. But we'll see what else happens as things go on, right? So, yeah. Okay, we'll go with B. Altered Beast. Can I just say, time hasn't been kind to Altered Beast. I think when this game came out in 1989, if I'm not mistaken. As time's gone on, so many better games have been made since. As in, like, it got like shafted basically straight away when like games like Golden Axe and Streets of Rage got made. Yeah. And I've got to be honest with you, I think Altered Beast is not the best game. I have a small soft spot for it. Just a small soft spot for it. It has aged like milk. Very quickly went sour, this game. It's known, obviously, for its infamous "Wise form your grave" hilarious thing. And it's pretty cool transformations. Let's be honest. Let's get one thing very clear about Altered Beast. Those transformation scenes were fucking banging. Okay, they looked so good. But you one thing that is so true about Altered Beast, though, it's so hard. It's stupidly hard. I can get to level 3, I think, before I get game overed. It's so hard, but it's not the best either. Like it's punishingly difficult. I would probably, again, using the heart and head situation, probably say my heart says C and my head says D. So I'm going to say C for Altered Beast. I could be more harsh, but I'm not going to be. Columns. So columns, we've got columns 1 and columns 3. Two very different games. So columns, again, for those who don't know, columns was like Tetris. I suppose it was like the Mega Drive Tetris. But it was if I'm not, oh god, I'm showing my ignorance in culture here. I believe it's based on the Egyptian times, or it's maybe the Greek times. But it's got a certain theme to it, musically and aesthetically. Yeah, it was good. I actually enjoyed Columns. It was a bit rigid, but I've got so many fond memories of playing it. Columns 1 is actually quite good. It's a little bit rigid. It's quite basic. But then again, Tetris was basic. Let's be honest. I enjoyed it. I'm going to put it in the B tier. I do like columns, and I was pretty good at columns. I was pretty decent at columns, and yeah, it's got a lovely charm to it that I can't quite describe. Columns 3. So let's talk about columns 3 then. So we just briefly talked about columns 3. Columns 3 was a lot more cartoonish in its approach. It obviously tried to be different to columns 1. By the way, I don't know what the hell happened to columns 2. I think columns 2 came out on a different console, if I'm not mistaken. It never came out on a Mega Drive. But it obviously was a release. But yeah, I've never played it. I don't know what console it came out on. Yeah, according to the Mega Drive, the game doesn't exist. So, but Columns 3 was very cartoonish in its style. One thing that I didn't like about Columns 3, believe it or not, one thing that Columns 1 got much better than Columns 3 was its music. Again, it had its ancient kind of Greek, Egyptian style music. Again, my cultures and my ignorance is showing here. And it was really good. It only had about 4 or 5 songs in the entire game, but they were really good songs. Whereas in Columns 3, I never beat the game, but I played through a certain amount of the game, and it only ever had one hecking song that I remember that was played, and it was the most repetitive song. Ugh. It was not an earworm. That's for sure. It's not a song that you want to remember. It was grating. It wasn't so bad when you heard it once or maybe twice, but God, you keep playing the game over and over and over again, and the music just repeats itself, and it's just like, oh God. It had some interesting mechanics, Columns 3. So it introduced trap doors almost, there's layers of traps where you can kind of raise your opponent's shelf or trap, and then try to push them upwards, because obviously in columns and in POPO or whatever, you're trying to avoid your columns from hitting the top of your roof, so to speak. So if you push your panels upward, your opponent's panels upwards, they've got less space to work with. So it had to introduce some new mechanics, which was not bad, but it was so repetitive. I'm probably going to keep it in the C tier because it wasn't bad. I just didn't. I just definitely prefer the first game. Comic Zone. Hot take on Comic Zone. Overrated. I think there's a lot of people that will be like, what? I couldn't get into Comic Zone. I tried. Because everyone keeps talking about Comic Zone being one of the best Mega Drive games. I just can't get into it. Don't get me wrong. I loved the concept, and that's one of the reasons why, again, I gave it many tries. The concept of being able to go into the comic and, beating up the bad guys yourself, especially back in the 90s, was such a cool idea, right? But I just couldn't get into the game. It was basically a beat-em-up. And I just feel like the beat-em-up genre was done much better by the likes of Streets of Rage and Golden Axe. I just couldn't quite get into Comic Zone. I just don't think it's that good. To be fair, I've not beaten it. I've not given it a full playthrough. But I tried quite a few times, probably 3 or 4 times. I don't know. You didn't like Comic Zone? No, you didn't like Comic Zone either, Dolly. I just didn't think it was that good. So sorry. I'm going to keep it in the C tier because I feel like if I put it in the D tier, that's too far. I feel like people you can't put Comic Zone in D tier. So fine, I'll keep it in C. So Comic Zone, C tier for me. Soz to anyone that's offended. Dynamite Headdy. So Dynamite Headdy is again another game that I missed during my time playing on the Mega Drive. I played Dynamite Headdy retrospectively. I didn't really know much about the game until I started emulating or started playing the Sega Mega Drive, mega collections that you used to get on the PlayStation 3, 4, 5 or whatever, yeah, or Xbox 360, Xbox One. So I played it late, and I think maybe if I played Dynamite Headdy when it came out, I would appreciate it a lot more than I do. It's fine. It's actually not bad. It's a good game. I feel like there's better. So yeah, I don't know. I prefer it to Comic Zone. But I don't know if I could put it in the B tier. I don't know if I could. I'm going to keep it in the C tier, I think. So Dynamite Heady, I'm going to put in the C tier. Now this game. Good God, this game. Echo the fucking dolphin, though. What can I say about Echo the Dolphin? It's possibly... I think Echo the Dolphin is like the Marmite of Sega Mega Drive games. Because I know some people who absolutely love this game. But there's so many people I know that absolutely hate it. And that's me. I'm in the latter. I hate Echo the Dolphin. See, here we go. Here we go. You love Echo. Don't you dare slate Echo. Here we go. Here we go. Come at me, bros. It is the Marmite. It is the Marmite of Sega Mega Drive games. Echo the Dolphin. There's so many people that have got such great fond memories of playing Echo. And there's certain people that are like, what the hell is going on? Okay, I'm playing as a dolphin. Like, that's one. Let's go through the mind. Let's go through the thought process of playing Echo the Dolphin. Yeah? I'm playing as a dolphin. That's kind of weird, but that's kind of cool. Wow, these graphics are amazing. Back when they came out, these graphics are incredible. I can swim around. That's so cool. I can jump out the ocean. Wow, that's great. What else can I do? I need to fight bad guys? Bad guys of the ocean? Okay. How do you do that? They're horrible bastards. Or there's the whole, what the fuck do I do? Where do I go? What do I do? Where's the map? What's going on? How do I progress? What do I have to do? And I think that's the bit where then people either found out what they had to do and played it and enjoyed it, or people were like, fuck this game, I don't know what to do with it. And I was in the latter category. Obviously, don't forget, back in the day, I didn't have like a guide. I didn't have like game FAQs. Wasn't a thing back in those days. It felt so random. It just, you didn't know. But, you know, you can't argue the game is beautiful. The music's stunning. The game itself is stunning to look at. It's a really, really beautiful game. But equally, unless you can figure out how to freaking play it, which, again, I couldn't because I was a noobish child, it was at that point. How the crystal barriers work was never explained. Yeah, it was never really... It was a proper game that you felt like you had to kind of just experiment with, or get lucky, or know someone that knew what to do. Yeah. D tier? Yeah, I am going to put it in the D tier. I'm going to put it in the D tier. Personally. And yeah, I agree. I do think there's going to be people who are like, "That's ridiculous. Put it in the A tier." And I said it's proper Marmite. It's probably the most Marmitiest of games on the Mega Drive. I think. You've got people that will say it's one of the best games ever made, and that it's one of the best games for sure on the Mega Drive. And you got other people going, "Fuck that game. It's bullshit." And I know there were sequels, and I never played them because why would I? Because I hated that piece of garbage so much. Again, a massive shout out to my friend Erica Newgirl, or Erica Please, as she's known now. Erica is a fantastic queer trans streamer. If you all should be checking out, I must say. Erica hates Echo the Dolphin, and her community know she hates Echo the Dolphin, and she does a lot of charity events, and she's got a tattoo of Echo the Dolphin because she hates it so much, and her community bullied her into getting the tattoo if they raised X amount of money. So it always Echo the Dolphin always reminds me of my lovely friend Erica Please, aka Erica Newgirl. Just a massive shout out to Erica. Lovely person. Yeah. Okay. Another quite divisive title, I'd say this one, Flicky. Now again, contextually, Flicky came out quite early on. Flicky was a port of a game from the mid to late 80s. I think it was like 1986. I think I'm throwing a guess out there. Around 1986, I'd say. Flicky, if I'm not mistaken, the game got ported onto the Mega Drive in the late 80s, but it came out initially in the mid to late 80s. I think it came out in like 1986, but then came out on the Mega Drive in like 1989 or something like that. So when you put it into context of when the game came out, it was really good. There was no game like it, really, like Flicky, to be honest with you. So, however, I know there's a lot of people that dislike the game. It only has one song, well, two songs. Again, very repetitive. The game's kind of got janky controls, but again, you know, you kind of slide around a lot, which again, some people couldn't get a head around that. I had a good time with Flicky. I really enjoyed it. I play Flicky probably once, I don't know, once a year, maybe once every 2 years. I play it, I have a good time with it, and then I leave it. And I never repeat it. I only just play it and then move on with my life, you know, because it is repetitive and it is a product of its time. But I enjoyed it. I enjoy Flicky. I'm probably going to keep it in the C tier. I don't think I can quite justify B tier because, again, there was a lot better games than it on the Mega Drive. We got to think about it in context. I mean, if we're talking about games that came out in the mid to late 80s, it's probably B or A tier, to be honest with you. But if we're talking about Mega Drive games, you can't put it higher than that, if you ask me. Gain Ground. This is a game with a very interesting history, and it's a game that not many people have played. So my history with Gain Ground is I never played this until goodness, I played this, I think I emulated it, but if not, I definitely got it on one of the later Mega Drive collections. If I'm not mistaken, this game had a very limited release here in the UK and Europe. I have a copy of this game now, believe it or not. I wasn't, at one point, I believed this game never came out. At one point, I mistakenly thought this game didn't get released in the UK and Europe at all, but I was wrong. I've got a copy of it. But it didn't really take off here. It was a much bigger game in the States and in Japan. But again, it didn't really... It's not really... It's kind of a cult classic. It didn't get a lot of traction. But it is still included on a lot of Sega Mega Drive, like Mega Collections nowadays. I feel like it's a game that has grown in its popularity over time, but it's still not popular. So what is Gain Ground, for those who don't know? Gain Ground is kind of like an over-the-top, kind of almost called like, it's almost like an over-the-top shooter game, but it's not just shooting. There's people that can shoot with guns, there's people that have got boomerangs, there's people that have got spears, some people have got miniguns, some people have got, like, you know, long like rocket shot weapons and all that stuff. Basically, it's a game where you play in different time periods of history, and it starts off in like ancient history, I think, and then it goes all the way to like the future. And you basically have to collect allies. So there's like, you got the enemy basically, and you got to shoot them or, you know, kill them or whatever. And then there's dotted about on certain levels of each map. There's people that have been captured, and you've got to walk into those characters to then recruit them. Yeah, that's how you collect them. But it's kind of got like the Dark Souls type of mechanic where if you get hit, you have one. You don't have health bar, by the way. You only have one hit. If you get hit, you die. And if you die, it's got like the Dark Souls mechanic where your next recruit, if you die, your next recruit will take your place, and you have to collect that person to recruit them again because they've been captured. And if you don't and you die, they've gone forever. Hence the Dark Souls style mechanic. So you can have an army of rescued, you know, heroes, shall we call them, with different abilities, different speeds, different weapons and all that stuff. And the bigger your army, the more chances you've got of taking out the enemy, basically. You can play it 2-player as well. It's really clever. and I really enjoy playing it. It's a really good game, and I still play it now once in a while. I'm actually going to put this in the B tier. I think you guys should check it out. It's one of those games that not many people have played, and I recommend it. I highly recommend it. It's a great game, to be honest with you. Okay, the classic, Golden Axe 1. Golden Axe 1 is an amazing game. Let's get this straight. We've got our first game, I think, in A tier. I don't know if I can put it in S tier because it's not perfect. But I mean, wow, what a game. Golden Axe is incredible. It is one of the best beat 'em ups of all time. And again, when it came out, there was very little like it. It did stuff like what Double Dragon and like Battletoads tried to do. Well, I say tried to do. Successfully did, but did it much better. It was just... Oh, it's such a good game. It's such a... I still play Golden Axe now. I play 1 and 3. I don't tend to play the second one too much. We'll talk about that a bit more in a minute. But Golden Axe, when it came out, there was very little like it. It transcended the beat-em-up genre in a similar way to how Streets of Rage did. I don't know what else to say other than it's just one of the best games ever made. It's one of the most important games on the Mega Drive. It's one of the best games on the Mega Drive. It is just, yeah, one of the most important titles in Sega's history, for sure. Yeah, you know, quite tough. Not beat this game organically. Again, I get so fucking close. I've never beat this game from start to finish without having to like emulate, cheat, whatever you want to call it, you know, save state or whatever. I always get to the final level and I just can't quite get past the finish line. Because if you play on easy mode, you can't play the game properly. It's one of those fantastic mechanisms that I love with certain games where they go, if you want to play on easy mode, okay, play easy mode. Oh, sorry. What was that? You beat the game? Ah, well, if you want to play the game properly, you have to play in normal mode. I love that mechanic that certain games had. And Golden Axe, I think, did it before many others did it, if I'm not mistaken. Because, yeah, I beat the game on easy mode, but you only get, like, half the game if you play on easy mode. Whereas if you want to play the game properly, you have to play on normal difficulty. And again, you play on normal difficulty, it's harder. I can't quite get to that finish line with it. I get to the final area, and I never finish it. It's so good. So Golden Axe 2. I don't know what it is, but I don't think Golden Axe 2 is that good. Like, I think that's the problem with the free Golden Axe games in general, is that once the first game came out and did its thing, Golden Axe 2 and 3 didn't do a lot to kind of change up what was set before it. And I feel like Golden Axe 2 is basically Golden Axe 1, just maybe slightly more polished. I never really vibed with Golden Axe 2. It's the one I played the least. It's fine. It's not a bad game. It's fine. It's just, it didn't do really anything innovative. It didn't really give anything that we already didn't have with Golden Axe 1, if you ask me. So yeah, that's kind of... So, you know, with that being said, it's not a bad game. It's perfectly playable. I'm probably going to put it in the B tier. It's not a bad game. I just think that Golden Axe 1 was better, that's all. Golden Axe 3, good game. Golden Axe 3, I felt like Golden Axe 3 added some newish features. Actually, you know what I'm going to do here? I'm just going to quickly rank this up. Golden Axe 3 goes there. Golden Axe 2 goes there. There we go. There's your 3 Golden Axe games. I'm going to put it in the B tier. I think Golden Axe C should be in the C tier. I think that's probably the best way to rank this. Golden Axe 3 is better than the second game, but not as good as the first, I'd say. Not because... I'd say Golden Axe 3 is probably maybe just as good as Golden Axe 1, but again, it's just a more polished game. It added a few new features. What I love about Golden Axe 3 is its path system. You can do different. You can go to different things. Sorry, you can go to different areas and play through the game in a different way. That's one of the big changes in Golden Axe 3, is that you can choose different paths and have different outcomes, different stories and stuff like that. And Golden Axe 1, and I don't think Golden Axe 2 had that, if I'm not mistaken. And I thought that's what sets it differently from the other two games. I think some of the game mechanics were slightly better as well, and some of the magic spells and stuff like that were slightly better. It was just a more all-around, polished, better game, but I would say you can't beat the original. I feel like the original was just way ahead of its time, and they struggled to really, make the games kind of, better than that, if that makes sense. So yeah, there you go. That's your Golden Axe trilogy. Oops. Oh, sorry. Let's move on. No. Gunstar Heroes S tier. What else do you want me to say? What else do you want me to say? What else do you want me to say? What do I need to say about Gunstar Heroes, man? It's one of the best fucking games ever fucking made. You not fucking played this. You are fucking stupid. You need to fucking play it. Gunstar Heroes is like one of my favorite games ever. Like, it's insane how good Gunstar Heroes was, man. It's one of the most chaotic pieces of brilliance that video gaming has ever had. I played this game like probably at least once a year. And my son loves it as well. It's the music's great. The comic book style characters are great. The different bosses are great. The just the chaos on screen is just. To this day, there's not many games that are as chaotic as Gunstar Heroes. Even to this day, there's a few, but back in the fucking Mega Drive days, man, there was nothing like Gunstar Heroes. It's just so much going on screen, and you're like if you're one of those kids, those kids, and I'm sorry to kind of go stereotypes here with boys and girls. I'm sorry. I'm sure there's some girls that probably do appreciate it, but if you're one of those boys, if you're one of those boys in the 90s that love pew pew pew, yeah, Gunstar Heroes. You know what I mean? If you're just one of those boys that just love shooting shit, there was nothing. Gunstar Heroes is there was no other experience like it. And I'm sorry to go stereotypical with that, because I'm sure there's definitely girls obviously that like that as well. But that was it's so good. It was just mindless fun. It was just mindless fun. Completely brainless, mindless, just chaos and brilliance. It's just so good. And to think that was Treasure's first game. It was their first game. So we played Guardian Heroes actually on stream for the first time ever a few weeks ago, and that's also very good. Actually, I really enjoyed Guardian Heroes. I do prefer Gunstar Heroes, but I mean, two different consoles, two different generational eras. But again, you could tell that it was the same people that made it. But it's crazy that this game was the first game that Treasure ever made, and they've never made a better game. So, Kid Chameleon. Now, again, I didn't really play Kid Chameleon much. I don't think I can put it any hide and seek here for that reason. I did play a little bit of it. I feel like there's probably going to be people that would think this game should be higher. It was another one of those cult games that again, a lot of people really enjoy and have good nostalgia for it. But I never really played it much. It's a game I kind of want to play on my Retro Sundays series at some point, because I kind of feel like I'm underappreciating it. Because it deserves. It probably just deserves to go higher than this, but I just personally can't put it higher because I've only played it like once or twice, and I don't think I gave it a good fair shake either. So I need to justify that, as in I need to look at playing it again. So Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. I know this game is divisive. I know there's people who say this game is just it's basically a clone, isn't it, of Puyo Puyo. But I don't know what to say. I love this game. I never really played it. I never played PoPo. For me, this was the first game that I ever played of that genre or series, shall I say? Because it is basically that, but in a coating of Sonic and Dr. Robotnik for marketing purposes. But you know what? It worked. Sorry, it got me. I played this game because I wanted to play a Dr. Robotnik puzzle game. So I played it, and I loved it. It's great. Is it a rip-off? Is it just basically a copy and paste job? Yes. Is it a bad game, though? No. So, hot take, I'm putting it under 8 here. I love playing Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. I play it again once or twice, maybe a year. I love playing it. It's one of my favourite puzzle games. And I know I should appreciate the original source more. I know I should, but you know, what can I say? It's a great game. That's as little as I need to say about it. You know, I think it's one of the best puzzle games, in my opinion, ever made. But I can appreciate why people are annoyed with that. The Revenge of Shinobi. I mean, straight away, I don't need to say much more than it needs to go there. One of the best games of all time. Just an absolute masterpiece of a game. Again, considering when this game came out, I think this game came out in 1989, if I'm not mistaken, and fuck me, there was very little like it in 1989. It's just wow. It's just one of the best ninja games, one of the best, you know, shmup, should we call it? It's hard to call it. What way would you class it? It's shurikens, isn't it? So it's yeah, just again one of the best games ever made. Quite difficult, but one of my all-time favorite games. And I know that Gotham Beauty is not here right now, but if Gotham Beauty was here, I think if I placed that game anywhere else, he would probably unfollow me and say that he doesn't want to be a mod anymore. So I have no choice, even if I wanted to put it somewhere else. I have no choice. I have to put it there. But I genuinely think that this is an S tier game. It is one of the best games ever made. One of my all-time favorite Mega Drive games. And yeah, it's great. Shadow Dancer. So this is basically Shinobi 2. It's called Shadow Dancer. I can't remember what it's called. Shadow Dancer. I don't think it's called. I can't remember what its full title is, but it's called Shadow Dancer, and it's basically the second Shinobi game. So with the second Shinobi game, this game ain't amazing in my opinion. Mainly because of the mechanics of the game. They changed it up. They changed the mechanics of this game. And I never understood why. So basically, they kind of made it so that it's kind of like, I suppose, one-hit kill, isn't it? It's kind of one of those games. I think you get one-hit kill, or is it 3 hits and you die, or something like that. They basically made it like they wanted to kind of go down that road of you know, no hit points, kind of like these are enemies that can kill you. You can kill them in 1 hit. If you can kill them in 1 hit, they can kill you in 1 hit. Fair is fair, type of thing, right? So because of the mechanics of that, the game is really hard. Now, all the Shinobi games are tough, but they made this one even harder. Now, I played through Shadow Dancer all the way through by using emulation / you know, save state / rewinding the game, whatever you want to call it. I have beat this game, and can I just say the game itself is actually quite good in terms of what you can get through if you get good, which I was not. I was not able to get good. But yeah, I just think that the difficulty is too high, so therefore I think it needs to be brought down. It's not a bad game. I think I'm going to keep it in the C tier. I think I'm going to keep it there, but it's not bad. I don't think I can justify B tier for this. Yeah, because the other games were so much better. And speaking of the other game, we've got the third game, Shinobi 3, The Return of the Ninja Master. So Shinobi 3, so I believe Shadow Dancer wasn't a big success, probably because they changed the game so much. So they went back to basics with Shinobi 3. And again, a bit of a history lesson with me on this game. Shinobi 3, I didn't know they made out of a Shinobi game. In fact, I played Shinobi, Revenge of Shinobi, like so much. And then for years and years and years, I didn't know they made any sequels for anything. I had no idea there was any sequels. And then I emulated. I was like, oh, they've made a second Shinobi game. It's called Shadow Dancer. And I played it. I was like, that game sucks because I was shit at it. Yeah. So I was like, okay, right, never mind. If only they made another Shinobi game. For years and years and years, I was like, I wonder if I would love to know if they ever made a third Shinobi game. And then I found out they did, and I never knew it existed for years. And I was like, oh, okay, let's play it then, because I didn't enjoy the second game, but who knows what the third game was like, right? And I found it, and I was like, oh my god, this is basically Revenge of Shinobi. And it is. It's basically like the original game, but with probably arguably better mechanics in terms of upgraded, more modernized mechanics. They added stuff to it, didn't they? It's a really, really good game. Shinobi 3, arguably harder than the first one, I think, as well. I've not beat this game all the way through without cheating either. But I get close. I get close to the end without, game overing, so to speak. I don't know if I could put this in the S tier. I don't know if I love it enough. I'm going to put it in the A tier. I think it's a very, very good game. One of the best games on the Mega Drive. I don't think I can put it under that top tier though. I do think Shinobi 1 is better than Shinobi 3. But Shinobi 3 is excellent. It is a very, very good game. We got Restar. So, Restar. Again, a game that I didn't play for years. That I didn't play when it came out on the Mega Drive. A game that... so this was... wasn't it? This was like Team Sonic's game, wasn't it? This was... Team Sonic obviously worked on a lot of Sonic games, obviously. But didn't they work on Restar as well? So they wanted to make a different game, didn't they? To kind of branch out, and this was the product that came out, if I'm not mistaken. And it's a good platformer. It is good. It had some interesting, unique dynamics to it that I couldn't quite work with. It was fine. My son likes it more than I do. Actually, by the way, my son, my 9-year-old son, loves old retro games. Can I say? I'm so proud. I'm so proud of my son. He loves playing the old school games, and he gets on with Restar more than me. I'm going to keep this in the C tier. I can understand why that might upset people. Some people might be like, nah, that's B or A tier. I don't think many people would put it in S tier, but I think people would be like, no, it's a solid platformer, JB. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. I think I can respect that. But I might need to give it another shot at some point. Because I think maybe I am underrating it, but I didn't fall in love with it. I can appreciate it for what it was. Again, when you think about when this game came out, it was one of the last games to come out on the Mega Drive again. So by that point, when you had your Sonics and stuff like that, I mean, you know what I mean? It's kind of like we talk about Altered Beast and Flicky as earlier titles. This game had like 7 or 8 years afterwards to work with, and what came out, you know what I mean? Okay, Shining Force. I mean, it's just great. It's just great. Both Shining Forces are great. You know what? I've not finished the second one. I need to finish the second one. You know something? I want to stream Shining Force on the channel at some point. But I do get worried that people won't enjoy it because of its style. It's not the easiest RPG to play on stream. But I may play it on stream at some point. I do want to finish the second one because I finished the first. I got very far in the second one, but I didn't finish it. So I need to justify that because it really does deserve it. I'm going to put Shining Force 1 in the S tier. I think it's one of the best RPGs ever made. I think it's because of the console that it was on, and because of the style of RPG that it is, which is, it's turn-based, tactical, in style, should we say. It never got the love it deserves, in my opinion. I know people who have a Sega Mega Drive or Genesis will say Shining Force is one of the best games ever made. But if you ask anyone else, if you talk to anyone who had a Nintendo or a Super Nintendo or played the old school Final Fantasies, they're going to go like, nah. Final Fantasy 6, Chrono Trigger, some of the Dragon Quest games, Super Mario RPG. They're going to talk about those titles, right? But in my opinion, Shining Force should be talked about alongside those games as a brilliant 2D RPG. It never does, because the Sega Mega Drive / Genesis didn't have many RPGs. They were a handful. There were a handful of RPGs on the console, but if you wanted an RPG experience back in those days, you went to the Super Nintendo. So it never gets put in the same category, and I think it's a damn shame. Yeah, it's one of those. But I love Shining Force. I think it's one of the best RPGs ever made. I think it's brilliant. I am the proud owner of Shining Force. Yeah, both of them. I was like, do I have both? I do. I have both of them. I have Shining Force 1 and 2 downstairs on my shelf, proudly in the display. I also own Gunstar Heroes and Revenge of Shinobi. I own a lot of these games, actually. There's not many games that I can see there that I don't own. Yeah, Shining Force 1 is one of the best games ever made. So Shining Force 2, I mean, I'm going to put this probably in the A tier. I'm going to put this in the A tier. I would be highly considered to put it in the S tier. The reason why I'm not putting it in the S tier is, I think one of the reasons why is because it's actually a very similar game to Shining Force 1. The differences between Shining Force 1 and 2 are minimal. It's a very different story. The story is different, but the way you play the game, the way the characters are worked with, all that stuff, is almost identical. Has almost exactly the same, art style, tactical battle system. Everything is almost identical. There's very little difference between the two games, apart from that they had different stories. So, and another reason why I can't put it in the S tier is because I've not beaten it yet. So I don't think I can easily kind of go, I've gone from start to finish and said this is one of the best games of all time. I know it is, and I would argue it's just as good as the first one. But equally, when you gotta, when you kind of like nitpick a bit, I think I'm gonna put it in the A tier. I think A tier is fair. Okay, here we go. Sonic titles. Sonic 1. I mean, Sonic 1 is interesting, isn't it? So, I mean, Sonic 1, when you compare it to what came afterwards, it's not the best Sonic game by a long shot. Never heard of it. Yeah, never heard of Sonic. What's this? What's Sonic the Hedgehog? That will never work. It's so hard to mark this, because you got to think about its impact on video gaming history. The precedents it set for the other sequels, but equally, and again, back when it came out in 1991, there was nothing like this. But equally, the formula and the quality went so much better afterwards. So, yeah, I do think B tier is probably where I'm going to put it. I do think it's a B tier game. I think there was better games in it. I mean, if you were to shut off at 1991, that's S tier. It's an S tier game straight away. One of the best platformers of all time as of 91. Yeah, but it completely obliterated the platforming genre. Who would have thought back in 91 that you would have a game that could even consider to be competing with Mario? as platformers go. You know, it completely changed everything, didn't it? So it was really amazing at its time. And yeah, one of the most influential games of all time. I agree. Yeah, for sure. But then you got this. So the jump from Sonic 1 to Sonic 2. I mean, holy shit. I mean, what a game. Sonic 2 is so good. It's one of the best platformers of all time. It's so damn good. What can I say? I mean, who'd have thought, right, that by making it even faster, making the graphical quality even brighter, by adding just a simple thing called a spin dash, and having some of the best, and improving the bonus stages to make them actually fun and not hair-pullingly difficult, would have completely changed it. Because let's be honest, there's actually not a lot of difference when you think about it, just on the simple terms of Sonic 1 to Sonic 2. The game's almost identical, just on the surface, but you just add those little differences into it, and then your game just goes woomph. And Sonic 2 is just an absolute masterpiece. It is one of the most important platformers, one of the best platformers, and one of the best Sonic games ever made. Sonic 2 is the Terminator 2 of the gaming world. It is! Sonic 2 is the Terminator 2 of the gaming world. That is so true. I never thought about it that way. I love it. So, Sonic 3 and Knuckles is placed together here, which again is a massive hot take. So, I'm going to talk about this game separately for starters, and then I'm going to talk about the game together. Sonic 3, my opinion, Sonic 3 is a downgrade to Sonic 2. It was a shorter game. It was a more shallow game. It was still very good. But if you take it in isolation, it's 6 levels. Whereas in Sonic 2 had about 10 levels. Yeah, it was just a more shallow game. To be honest with you. So if I was to take it in isolation now, I would be putting Sonic 3 in the B tier. I think Sonic 3 is fine. The game itself is good. Okay, let's compare Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 and Sonic 2 and Sonic 3. You've pretty much got the exact same argument. Especially when it comes to the remakes of Resident Evil, of course. Resident Evil 3 is considered to be a more shallow version of Resident Evil 2, especially in the remakes, right? That's what you got with Sonic 2 and 3. Sonic 3 is a more shallow version of Sonic 2. The game is very good. Resident Evil 3 is very good, but it's just more shallow. It's just the quality is there, but it's just smaller, lesser, and it's a shame. Sonic was better than Sonic 3, but Sonic 2 was the GOAT. Yeah. But again, we were talking about retrospectively about Sonic 1. We have to talk about the impact that Sonic 1 had, so hence the B tier. Sonic 3 bonus stage can burn in hell. I love Blue Sphere, and that's one thing I will say is Blue Sphere is great. It's very hard. I'm pretty good at it, but I can appreciate not everyone liked it because it gets really ridiculous. But I do love Blue Sphere. Do I like it as much as Sonic 2's bonus stages? Probably equal amount, but I think that's a hot take. And then you got Sonic and Knuckles. So again, we're taking an isolation Sonic and Knuckles. I think Sonic and Knuckles is A tier. Sonic and Knuckles is a bigger game than Sonic 3, which makes no sense. Sonic and Knuckles came out after Sonic 3. And obviously you played them together, don't you? And we'll talk about that in a minute. But in isolation, Sonic and Knuckles makes no sense being a bigger game than Sonic 3. It was like, why would they make why didn't they make Sonic 3 bigger? It doesn't make any sense. Because, but I think the level quality of Sonic and Knuckles is better than Sonic 3. I love, like, Flying Battery Zone in Sonic and Knuckles. I love, there's a Lava Reef Zone is amazing. The levels of Sonic and Knuckles were just better than Sonic 3, my opinion. So again, I'd put Sonic and Knuckles in the A tier. And don't forget as well, playing as Knuckles, you couldn't even play as Knuckles in Sonic 3. So I can imagine back in 1994, because I didn't play these games in 94, but I can imagine playing Sonic. I can imagine being like, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years old, right? And you played Sonic 1 and went, wow, Sonic 1's amazing. And then you played Sonic 2 and went, oh my god, this game is insane. And then you played Sonic 3 and go, oh, this is good, but it's a bit short. This Knuckles guy seems quite cool. I wish I could play as him. And then you played Sonic and Knuckles, and you go, oh my god, I can play as Knuckles? The game's bigger? What? Why didn't they put all that in Sonic 3? It doesn't make any sense. It's so weird. I never understood the marketing that Sega and the Sonic team had with the release of Sonic 3 and Knuckles. It doesn't make sense for me. But yeah, so I would put Sonic and Knuckles in A tier. But then you got Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Now, Sonic 3 and Knuckles is my favourite Sonic game. And it immediately goes into S tier. It is my favourite platformer of all time. I love Sonic 3 and Knuckles. If you put that as one game, the two games together as one game, and you can play Sonic 3 levels as Knuckles as well, and of course you've got like the lock-on effect that Sonic and Knuckles have. You can play Sonic 2 and Knuckles with it. If you put in a random game, you can play a random level of Blue Sphere. But obviously, just talking about the base game alone, and how long and how big Sonic 3 and Knuckles is as an experience, it's just, for me, the best platformer ever made. You've got the two things combined. You can play as, like, you get Hyper Knuckles and Hyper Sonic as well. If you get all, how many gems is there? I think there's 14 gems. Is there? I think you can get. It's just the best Sonic game of all time, in my opinion, and it's my favorite platformer. So I've got to put it up there as S tier. It's just there's never been a better Sonic game, in my opinion, than Sonic 3 and Knuckles. So, you know, as I said, in isolation, not so much, but together, wow. What a fucking game. 1994 I would have been 5, but I didn't have my Mega Drive until many years later. I didn't have a Mega Drive until like 98, but because it was still my favorite console and my only console, I played games back in 98 on the Sega Mega Drive like I played them back in the early 90s, because that was still my first gaming experience. So I can still imagine myself like 4 years earlier playing those games. You know what I mean? And then we've got Sonic 3D. So I know a lot of people don't like Sonic 3D, which isn't a 3D game. Oh, it's a very, again, we talk about Marmite games. Sonic 3D is a Marmite game. There's a lot of people who don't like Sonic 3D. I like Sonic 3D. I like it. I like Sonic 3D. I know why people don't like it. I have a soft spot for it. I don't know. I was like, do I put it in the B tier? It's not as good. It's not S or A, of course. It's B or C for me. Can I justify putting it in the B tier? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Okay, I'll put it in the C tier. I'll put Sonic 3D in the C tier. I think some people want me to put it in the D or I don't know why we got F there. Let me call that E. Why is it F? Sonic Spinball. Not a big fan. Sorry. Not a big fan of Sonic Spinball. I just don't think... I think it's mostly because I'm not very good at pinball games. I'm not the biggest fan of... I love the idea, though. Like, again, I can imagine when this game came out, everyone was like, what? Sonic would be an amazing pinball game. It makes so much sense. Just the marketing of Sonic and Spinball together in a pinball game is just, it's just chef's kiss. It makes so much sense. But I'm not very good at pinball games. I have beat Sonic Spinball, but again, I had to like cheat my way through it. And I don't know. I feel like here's my opinion of Sonic Spinball. I think that once you've gotten over the novelty of being able to play a pinball game with Sonic, it just gets repetitive. It's just fine. It's just, you know, because the first level's fine. The first level's pretty decent in Sonic Spinball. But then there's not enough variety in it afterwards. Like they changed little subtle things. But it's a pinball game in the end, right? And there's not much more you can do with a pinball game. It's just pinball, right? So that's why I'm going to put it in the C tier. I don't think it's not a bad game. It's not a bad game at all. It's fine. I just think that, yeah, the music's very good. The music's very good, and the art style's funky. To be fair as well. And again, it's the concept. The concept's great. There's not many games left in this tier list, by the way. But we have got a certain trilogy to talk about. So we've got Streets of Rage 1. Okay. So, I mean, immediately, I'm going to put it here. And then I need to debate whether or not to put it here. Let me just get the other game out of the way and put that there. Because, yeah, let's talk about both games obviously in isolation and together as well. So first in isolation, Streets of Rage 1. Again, Streets of Rage 1, when it came out, like Golden Axe, was just insanely good, and nothing else came out like it. Streets of Rage 1, when it came out, like I said, there was nothing else like it. It was like Golden Axe in that respect. Both of them were beat 'em ups in very different styles, obviously. And you know, we can't knock what happened with Streets of Rage 1 when it came out. There was nothing really like it. One of the best gaming soundtracks of all time. One of the coolest games of all time. Fantastic characters, great art design, some really cool beat 'em up move sets and stuff like that as well. There was nothing else like Streets of Rage when it came out. There's a certain part of me that just want to put it in S tier. I'm really not sure, because if you were to ask me, JB, do you prefer Golden Axe or Streets of Rage 1? Golden Axe 1 or Streets of Rage 1? I'd go Streets of Rage 1. What do you guys think? A tier or S tier for Streets of Rage 1? But in the meantime, let's talk about Streets of Rage 2. Streets of Rage 2 is an immediate S tier game. Streets of Rage 2 is one of my favourite games of all time. It's the best Streets of Rage game ever made. It took everything that Streets of Rage 1 did and made it better. Made the music was funkier. The difficulty levels were slightly easier as well, so it's more accessible. The fighting styles were great. You had an extra character in there. Well, actually 2 characters in there. No, yeah, there was 2 new characters that took out Adam, didn't they? And they put in Skate and Max. So we had 4 different characters with very different movesets and styles. The boss fights were awesome. The music was so good. The combos and the fighting styles were so much better as well. Everything from Street Rage 1 to 2 was upgraded. And Street Rage 2 is one of the best games of all time, and it's definitely one of the best Sega Mega Drive games. An immediate S tier game. But Street Rage 1, do I put it in the A tier or S tier? I'm gonna keep it in the A tier, I think, but it's like an A plus. It's like an A plus, I'd say. I think, yeah, it's as close to an S tier, I think, as any of the other games are gonna be. Yeah. So yeah, but then we do have Streets of Rage 3. So Streets of Rage 3 is an interesting game. Is it a good game? Yes. It's actually very good. But it's so hard. It's stupidly hard. I don't know why they made Streets of Rage 3 so hard. I don't understand. I've never understood what possessed Sega to go, you know what we need here? We made Streets of Rage 2 easier. I know what we need to do. We need to make the game way harder. Way less accessible. We need to make it harder than the first 2 games, and then some. Because if Streets of Rage 3 had a different difficulty level, I would say it's probably just as good as Streets of Rage 1, and maybe nearly as good as Streets of Rage 2. Because again, if you take it in isolation, brilliant soundtrack. They got a fantastic new set of characters in terms of, like, you have Zan. Zan's cool. You can unlock like Shiva, and you got like the clown, oh my god, the kangaroo. Come on, it's called Roo. It's called Roo. You have different endings. Well, we have different endings in the first one as well. But there's different ways to get different endings in the third game. You can get different pathways and stuff like that. The music's great. Some of the combos are great. Again, one thing that Streets of Rage 3 does is what we talked about Golden Axe 1 doing, which is, again, if you do play on easy mode, then you don't get to play the full game. I like that mechanic. But yeah, in isolation, Streets of Rage 3 is fine. It's a very, very good game. In fact, I'm going to put it under B tier. I think Streets of Rage 3 is a good game. It's just stupidly hard. I've never been able to beat it. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn here. I'm pretty fucking good at Streets of Rage. I'm very capable at playing a Streets of Rage game, but I cannot for the fucking life of me beat the third one without cheating. It's so hard. It's just stupid how hard that game is. But yeah, it's still very good. It's still very good. Toe Jam and Earl. Now, I've not played a lot of Toe Jam and Earl. My son loves Toe Jam and Earl. It's a very cool game. It is a really cool game. I in terms of its aesthetics, its music, and its style, like, one of the coolest games on the Mega Drive. Straight away. Straight away. It is just one of the coolest games ever. But as a game, as a it's a platform, isn't it? It's okay. I just never couldn't quite vibe with it in that respect. Like, as a quality game, I never thought it was that good. I feel like if you strip out the cool factor, the funk factor, the aesthetics, the art style, take out all of the stuff that visually and sonically was there, and you talk about it just as a base game, I've always thought Toe Jam and Earl is okay. It's fine, you know. I controversially, I'm probably going to keep it on C tier, but I do want to play it on Retro Sundays at some point. That's something I'm going to be working on, because I want to be proven wrong. I want people to, because I know a lot of people love Toe Jam and Earl, and in fact they made a new Toe Jam and Earl game a couple of years ago, if I'm not mistaken. Like, there was so much demand for this cult classic, because they made 2 games on the Mega Drive, and if I'm not mistaken, that was it. They never made any of a Toe Jam and Earl game until recently. They made a 3rd game in its old school style, if I'm not mistaken. So check that out. If you do like Toe Jam and Earl games, check that out. I believe that you'll enjoy it. It was the 3rd. It's very good if you like that style game. But me personally, I couldn't quite vibe with it beyond its funk factor. Vectorman. So again, Vectorman is not a game I really played much until some of the Sega Mega Collections and stuff like that. Again, I believe this game was at the end of the life cycle of the Sega Mega Drive, and it didn't yeah, it didn't capture my imagination, basically. I'm going to put this in the D tier. I feel like there's a lack of games in the D tier anyway, but I do think Vector Man deserves it. I don't get Vector Man. I've never understood it. I mean, it came out at the end of the life cycle of the Mega Drive, and I know it was going for that kind of like 3D look. So it kind of looked... It tried to look cool. It tried to kind of look modern. And kind of keep up with, you know, trying to make it, yeah. It certainly has an interesting aesthetic now, retrospectively, but I'm sure back when it came out, and I think it came out in like 95 or something like that, 94, 95. There was not really many games that looked like it because they're trying their hardest to make it look 3D. I just don't, as a game, beyond, if you take if you strip out again the aesthetic, the game is meh. I just didn't think it was that good. Yeah, maybe it's just me, but I didn't quite get it. And then you got Virtua Fighter 2, the final game we're going to talk about today. Virtua Fighter 2. So I never had a Sega Saturn when it came out, and if I've heard that the Sega Saturn version of Virtua Fighter 2 is very different to the Sega Mega Drive version of Virtua Fighter 2. And if you talk about the Sega Saturn version of this game, one of the most innovative and best beat-em-up games of the 90s. It was actually, it was one of the real successful early 3D fighting games. Yeah, so I believe if you did play this game, you know, when it came out, it was like mind-blowing back in the Sega Saturn. So they then ported it, didn't they? They ported it to the Sega Mega Drive. If you know your history, you will know that the Sega Mega Drive was kind of still very successful, especially in Europe, even when the Sega Saturn was out. So there was still a lot of games coming out on the Sega Mega Drive. Despite the fact that the game was a generation, you know, before, technically. So they ported Virtua Fighter 2 to the Mega Drive, and apparently, well, not say apparently, it's pretty much classed as a fact, really, that it wasn't the best port. It wasn't the easiest port to make, because again, don't forget, Virtua Fighter 2 was a 3D game, and Virtua Fighter 2 was it tried to be a 3D fighting game on the Sega Mega Drive, and it didn't do great. It wasn't great. It was just very, very janky, and I have a small soft spot for Virtua Fighter 2 because, again, I never played the Sega Saturn version, and there weren't many fighting games other than Street Fighter. Speaking of, where the heck's Street Fighter on this list? But anyway, by the way, Street Fighter 2 would be S tier, just so you know. But Virtua Fighter 2, there weren't many other fighting games. If you didn't want to play Street Fighter on the Mega Drive, what else did you play? That was a fighting game. There was Virtua Fighter 2, really. I can't think of many others. There was probably a couple of others, but yeah. I'm going to cut it under C tier. I think I have a soft spot for it. It probably deserves to be in the D tier. But yeah, I'm going to keep it there because I have a small soft spot for it. I love playing as what's the name? Is it Kaji? Oh, is that with a K? Koja, Kaji. There's like a blue suited ninja. I used to love playing as that. What was it? Taki. It was a 4-letter word. I had a K in it. I think it started with a K, but it might have been Taki. I don't know. What I used to do is I used to just knock them, because it's one of those fighting games with a ring out, right? So you just knock them over the side and get a ring out. And I used to just beat them up to the side and then get ring out, like, constantly. I was not very talented at playing Virtua Fighter 2. And also the jumps are ridiculous. You jump and you go wee, and then jump on the floor. It was ridiculous. But yeah. So there we go, friends. That's my tier list of Sega Mega Drive games. I know there's certain titles missing off this list, and there's certain games I've not played that will be below. That, again, I'm not going to talk about them because I didn't play them. But yeah, what do you agree with here? What do you disagree with here? What games are missing from this list, and where should they be? Let us know. I'd love to hear what you guys think of this, because this is my version of events. But you know, what do you guys think? Let me know.